Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Clark, research analyst for Money and Markets, with your week ahead, Money Markets week ahead, what to watch on Wall Street, kind of giving a recap or a look ahead of what you can expect to see and what investors may be paying attention to coming up next week on Wall Street. Remember, you can catch these videos on YouTube. Just make sure you go to our YouTube channel. You can find that at youtube.com and just type in Money and Markets. It'll be the one with the green logo, and then you just hit subscribe. And then I think there's a little bell that pops up there that allows you to get notified every time a new video gets posted. By doing that, you'll actually kind of become a bit of an insider as we post videos to YouTube, typically before they come out on moneyandmarkets.com. So you'll be able to get the information first, and that'll allow you to take any action you deem necessary a little earlier than you might if you were just waiting for the information to pop up on moneyandmarkets.com. So make sure you do that. Just go to our YouTube channel and just hit subscribe. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and then make sure you get alerted, and you will be kind of an insider, and plus it's free, so who doesn't like that? You can also do that with The Bull and the Bear, our podcast that comes out every week. We are also on about 20 different podcast syndicators there, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. I think we're in the process of getting onto Amazon as well. You can check us out that way through your your favorite podcast syndicator, and follow us, subscribe to us, and leave us a review, leave us a comment if you'd like. If you do have a comment or question or a particular stock or sector that you'd like us to cover in an upcoming video, make sure you email us. You can do that at feedback@moneyandmarkets.com. That's feedback@moneyandmarkets.com. Now, to take a look at what we have coming up this week, it's going to be a relatively light week in terms of earnings on the stock market. But the big thing will happen when the Dow Jones Industrial Average institutes its major change before the market opens on Monday. Last week, they announced that 3 companies, including one that's been listed on the index since 1928, were coming off the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and 3 new companies are being added to replace them. ExxonMobil, which trades on the stock exchange under XOM, drug maker Pfizer, which also trades on the New York Stock Exchange, its ticker symbol is PFE, and aerospace giant Raytheon Technologies Corporation, which trades on the New York Stock Exchange under RTX, are being replaced by Salesforce.com Inc., which is New York Stock Exchange ticker CRM, Amgen Inc., which trades on the NASDAQ as AMGN, and Honeywell International Incorporated, which trades on the New York Stock Exchange as HON. They will be coming on. Exxon, Pfizer, and Raytheon are coming off. The change is really prompted when Apple Inc., which trades on the NASDAQ under AAPL, announced its 4-to-1 stock split that'll significantly lower the price share of the $2 trillion company. It's a big impact on the Dow Jones Industrial Average because the index is reflected by share price of the 30 companies listed. So when one company lowers its share price with a stock split, that significantly changes the dynamic of the Dow Jones. So that prompted officials at S&P Global to say, well, we need to figure out how we can make this balance out better. Plus, the Dow will sometimes reconstitute itself on occasion when economic conditions shift, or maybe when there's an underperforming company that's on the list, they need to drop off. And this is what we're seeing here. They're shifting, they're trying to bolster up tech a little bit more by adding companies like Salesforce and Amgen, and moving away from traditional oil and gas and energy stocks by removing Exxon. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic. I did do a video on this. So I did a Bull and the Bear podcast on this shift and what it means for investors. I encourage you to go to our YouTube channel or check it out as a podcast. You can go to YouTube and find it, or it's our podcast that we did earlier last week, and you'll be able to listen to it that way to get kind of more insight on what that means. As I mentioned in the video, the change doesn't mean a whole lot to individual investors unless you're investing in one of the 6 companies that are impacted, or an exchange-traded fund that tracks the Dow. You might see some shift a little bit in terms of overall price. The 3 companies that are listed that are going to be joining the Dow have recently jumped in price because of that, as well as some other things. Salesforce had a very good second quarter earnings report that came out last week, so that has prompted their stock to really start to take off. Honeywell has bumped up, as has Amgen. The 3 companies that are coming off, Exxon, Pfizer, and Raytheon, have all experienced some decline because of that news. So investors are going to be watching to see how the move away from oil and gas and the addition of the new stocks, as well as the subtraction of the 3, are going to impact the overall index over the course of time. On the IPO front, it's going to be another quiet week for initial public offerings this week. There are a few companies that are going to be exiting their quiet period coming up this week. All the companies scheduled to come out of the quiet period are all involved in healthcare, which is kind of interesting. The ones that are coming off their quiet period are Inozyme Pharma. They trade on the NASDAQ under INZY. Annexon Inc. trades on the NASDAQ as ANNX. Deerfield Healthcare Technology Acquisitions Corporation trades on the NASDAQ as DFHTU. That's DFHTU. ITOs Therapeutics trades on the NASDAQ as ITOS. And Nurix Therapeutics trades on the NASDAQ as NRIX. Now, in terms of an IPO, as I mentioned before, a quiet period usually refers to that mandated time frame where company insiders like management or marketing or anything like that cannot share any opinions whatsoever or additional information about the company. Under the SEC guidelines, quiet period for an IPO lasts from the time the IPO registration statement is made available to 40 days after the stock begins trading. All these IPOs released around the same time, so their quiet week comes to an their quiet period comes to an end either on Tuesday, Monday rather, or Tuesday, or on Wednesday. Outside analysts can give their thoughts on the company. The company still reports its quarterly earnings and things like that. But as far as any additional information from the company, they are forbidden to do so. The intent there is to kind of prevent any type of insider information during the initial stages of an IPO trade. The data dump this week, IHS Markit will release its final manufacturing purchase index for August. This gauges the strength of manufacturing sector in the U.S. The index was at 53.6 at last check, meaning a slight uptick in manufacturing. A reading of 50 or above indicates expansion in the sector. 49 or below indicates contraction. Investors will also get a peek into construction spending on Tuesday morning as the Department of Commerce will unveil its July figures. Construction spending was down about 0.7% in June, despite some good gains in home building and home buying. Another piece of information investors will be eyeing will be the Federal Reserve's Beige Book that is scheduled for release at 2 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon. The book is published 8 times a year, and it's kind of a compilation of each Federal Reserve Bank district's information regarding current economic conditions. In July, when the last Beige Book report was released, the overall economic activity in the U.S. had increased, but was still well below those pre-COVID-19 levels. All sectors did see some slight growth, including retail sales, food and beverage, and leisure and hospitality. On Thursday, the U.S. trade deficit will be released for July. The deficit as of June stands at a negative $50.7 billion. Again, like I said, a light week in earnings this week. We do have a couple companies that will report earnings of note. Rackspace Technologies and Zoom Video Communications, both on the NASDAQ, will release on Monday. H&R Block and Shoe Carnival Incorporated will release their corporate earnings on Tuesday. On Wednesday, CrowdStrike Holdings, Five Below, the popular discount retail chain, and Macy's, which should be kind of an interesting gauge into large retailers and how they've handled the coronavirus. That might be one to watch. That will be released on Wednesday. On Thursday, Campbell Soup Company and DocuSign. You remember we've actually recommended DocuSign as a stock to buy, and it has exploded in terms of its price. They will be releasing earnings on Thursday, and on Friday there are actually no earnings that are scheduled for Friday. So a light week on earnings, but the big signs are going to be pointing to the Dow Jones Industrial Average changeover, very light on the IPO front, and several data points as well as jobless claims will be coming out next week. So that's your look at your money and markets week ahead, what to watch on Wall Street. Remember, you can find this video on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, type in money and markets. We'll have the green logo there you'll be able to find. And just hit subscribe. And then I think there's a bell that pops up that allows you to get notified every time a new video is released. Make sure you do that so you can get the information first before it comes out on our website, moneyandmarkets.com. Listen to the Bull and Bear podcast each and every week. You can do that on your favorite podcast syndicator or here or on YouTube. Just make sure you are subscribed and follow us. Leave us a review. Leave us a comment. If you got a comment or a question or a concern or anything like that, you can email us at feedback@moneyandmarkets.com, feedback@moneyandmarkets.com. Also, don't forget, each and every week we have our marijuana market update, wildly popular and generates a lot of interesting discussion. So make sure you check that out. That usually comes out later in the week. So that's about all for me for this week ahead. I hope everyone has has or had a great weekend, and look forward to a strong, prosperous week coming up ahead. So until then, I'm Matt Clark, research analyst for moneyandmarkets.com, your host for the Bull and the Bear podcast, the marijuana market update. And until then, safe trading.